I'm about to head to Long Island for just a few days to visit some family and also to hang out with some friends. Every time I go to Long Island, I normally bring one of my cameras. It used to be something like this, the Sony ZV-E1 with a 16-35 lens. And then I might bring something like the Osmo Action 4 with a newly cracked screen. This thing is just super lightweight. It's great to stick to magnetic poles, clip it on trees. And then a lot of times recently I've been bringing this guy, which is the DJI Osmo Pocket 3, a great little camera. I don't know about you, but when I bring a camera and I don't use it, it's just dead weight in the bag. And even something as light as this, you still feel it in the bag. So for this mini vacation, the only thing I am bringing as far as cameras is going to be the phone in my pocket. Let's see what this thing can do. So we're currently in Rockville Center, Long Island. We're about to take that train to Lindenhurst, meeting up with some friends for a happy hour. Haven't seen them in a while, so it should be fun. It'll also be a great opportunity to see how the iPhone's camera does in lighting conditions that keep changing, and its low light capabilities as well. So a long time ago, I actually heard someone refer to the Long Island Railroad and the Babylon line as a sort of long-distance overpriced subway, just because it's elevated, it stops every 3 minutes, and it does run pretty frequently. And most towns, not all towns that are right by the train station, do have a lot of restaurants, bars, and a lot of amenities. So it does make it pretty convenient. You could almost not use a car when getting to certain areas, kind of like what we're doing right now. Now it looks like we have to wait for our transfer train to take us from Wantagh to Lindenhurst. Some of my friends that I've known for over 20 years. I didn't really take a lot of video since I ran into one of my friends on the train platform. And as soon as I saw him, I saw one of my other friends. Then one of my other friends got on the train, and we were just having a lot of fun. And it's just awesome that we still all live in the New York City area, just outside of New York. Also, I was having an issue with my phone. I was trying to unlock the camera, or I was trying to just hit the camera from the lock screen, and it just opened up to a black screen. So that's one negative about this, but that's the first time it's happened. Maybe it was a fluke. It's actually pretty cool. The train window is pretty dirty, so it almost acts like a mist filter. A very dirty mist filter, but I found it was a pretty cool effect since it gives everything a nice hazy mist. Did you ever see the movie In Bruges? It's with Colin Farrell and the other guy. I can't remember, but I'll put his name on the screen. Absolutely amazing movie. A lot of the times when they went out at night to go drinking or whatever, a lot of the architecture had this look to it. And this thing right here, this church behind me, I don't know how good the camera is picking it up. It reminds me of In Bruges, I'm telling you. Also, just wanted to mention, I might probably already been doing this in the editor when I am using the little wired microphone that I have right here, the Sennheiser XS Lav USB-C, this guy right here. Most of the time I'll be using that, but if I'm using just the internal audio, like right now, I will put it on the screen just to let you know what the iPhone is actually capable of. But yeah, check out the church. Absolutely awesome. So back home right now, it was a lovely time seeing friends and family out on Long Island. I've got to say, as far as just using the iPhone, it was a breath of fresh air and it was very liberating. That first few clips where you saw me going out or going to meet up with my friends, all I had was the phone that went in my jacket pocket. I had this microphone, the Sennheiser XS Lav mic with the USB-C connector, and I also had a MagSafe battery connector that just went on the back just in case the phone battery went low. And it was super nice to just not have to worry about a backpack, not have to bring even a small camera, just because if you have your phone and you don't film, well, your phone's still useful. And if you do film, hey, you're using your phone either way. It's not like you're just carrying dead weight, which every time I do take one of my cameras anywhere I go and I end up not using it, it does end up being dead weight just in my backpack. Pros of using a telephone to film yourself: it is super easy to film yourself and then turn the phone around. You have a bunch of different lens options. You have a 16 or a 13 millimeter, a 24 millimeter, a 48 millimeter, and even a 77 millimeter. I think the new ones also have a 120 millimeter for that 3x zoom. So you pretty much have everything from super wide to really narrow, really zoomed in shot to get some really nice dynamic shots, which is definitely something that you want when you're out there just filming yourself. Of course, it fits right in your pocket and it's so small, it's so lightweight, it's easy to hold. You can switch hands very easily as long as you don't block the camera. I have to sometimes just switch hands like this, since even though it's super lightweight, when you hold it all the way up here, it does tend to make your shoulder, or at least it makes my shoulder, a little bit sore. After about 3 to 5 minutes, with a big camera, I can only do this for 30 seconds before my shoulder starts to hurt. So super convenient, super easy, super minimal. And it's also nice that if you have your phone in a case, it's pretty much, knock on wood, drop proof. It's also got a decent amount of water resistance if you have a phone from the last 2 or 3 years, which is definitely a big step up from something like the DJI Pocket 3, which is not waterproof at all, and you can't drop that thing at all. Actually, most cameras you shouldn't be dropping, but I have dropped my Sony ZV-E1, I have not dropped the A7S III, and I have dropped the DJI Action 4 a number of times. I did break the screen in the back. I had to just throw on a screen protector, so this thing's designed to be thrown around, but this thing's also pretty cheap. So it's definitely nice that you don't have to worry about breaking a screen clean off the hinge or breaking the gimbal. This thing is a lot more robust as long as you leave it, or as long as you keep it in a case. I was also pleasantly surprised with how easy connecting a wired lav mic like this was. It's definitely easier than setting up the DJI Mic 2s that I have right here. These things aren't that bad either. I typically just clip the wireless unit on the inside of my shirt and then just throw this one in the bottom of the phone, just USB-C right there. But the problem I have with this is when you turn it on, you have to hold it for a good 3 seconds, and that definitely for some reason slows me down. But regardless, it's still a great option since it's wireless. But a wired microphone like this, super easy, super convenient, and amazing sound quality. You heard in the video, most of the audio was captured with this. Now on to the cons of using an iPhone or any modern day smartphone to film yourself. Well, the image quality, while it is good when you're filming the scene, filming what you see, and it definitely is pretty decent, actually pretty good in low light, not just decent. When you start to turn the camera around and face it towards you, it does start to look a bit flat. You don't get these types of shadows. You don't get these brighter brights and darker darks, which pretty sure it's called dynamic range, that you get with something like a full frame camera, or even something like a DJI Pocket 3, which is right here in the case. Even something like this is going to get you much more dynamic range and a much more cinematic look than a phone camera. It's also not the easiest to color grade the footage coming out of this phone. Yes, you can shoot it in Apple Log, but Apple Log takes up way too much space, and even with 200 gigabytes of storage free, I only get about 30 minutes of Apple Log, which all the footage that I edited, I actually had an hour worth of footage. So can you imagine if you go out and film just one video, you get an hour of footage and you fill up 200 gigabytes? Those files are going to be huge. In my opinion, it is just not worth it. Sure, you can connect up a hard drive, you can do all this stuff, but once you start rigging out the phone, you might as well just get an actual camera at that point. Now, that being said, the image that comes out of this isn't that bad if you're in good lighting, and actually I'm pretty impressed with the low light performance of such a small sensor camera like this. I still do like to add a little bit of exposure correction, bring it down to bring some shadows out, and also add a hint of warm colors. I tend to like the warmer colors when I watch or when I edit my videos, but I still find I have to be a little bit more careful, whereas something like a A7S III, ZVE1, Pocket 3, anything like that, I have a lot more room. I can really bring out those highlights and bring out those shadows. So it's definitely something that it makes it harder to make this not look like it was shot on a cell phone and was shot on an actual camera. Battery life. These modern day smartphones definitely last a full day if you're using them like normal. However, just filming about 30 to 45 minutes of footage ate up 50% of my batteries. Yes, you heard that right, 50% of my battery, not batteries, I said batteries. So that's kind of insane. If you're out there filming for 2 or 3 hours, you're definitely going to be draining your phone battery. And now if you actually have to rely on your phone for other stuff like navigation or communications, texting, calling people, it's definitely going to be a hinder on it. And even something like the Anker power bank that I showed you earlier in this video, you're going to have to probably take at least 2 of these if you're really going to be out all day and relying on filming with your phone. Now, along with battery life, we also have storage. The phone doesn't have external storage. You can't just pop an SD card in there. Of course, you can get adapters, but we're trying to keep things simple when we're just filming with our phones. So it still is a con, and it's something you want to use a phone, or at least I want to use the phone just as it is right here, as minimal as possible. So it's definitely one thing that I saw. Now, I shoot most of my content in 1080p, 60 frames per second. I'm in 1080p, 30 frames per second right now for this talking head segment. The reason I like 60 frames per second is because it allows you to slow it down halfway and get some nice slow motion when you're editing it to the music. And also the 1080p, I've looked at the images, I've looked at the footage from 1080p versus 4K. And even if you do zoom in on the phone, it's very, very, very hard to tell the difference. So in my opinion, 4K is not worth it for me. I know a lot of people love 4K. I'm not one of them. I'm totally happy with HD, 1080, totally fine. But if you are going to be shooting in 4K 30 or 4K 60 and you only have a 128 gigabyte model phone, then you're going to eat through your storage at twice the speed as I did, since I do have the 256 gig model and I am shooting in 1080, so I have more space and I'm actually using smaller files purposefully. So that is a bit of a workaround, but I still don't like that the phone fills up pretty fast and there's not much you can do aside from just deleting a bunch of footage. So if you're going out and you're actually going to film for a week's vacation, you've really got to be disciplined with offloading your videos, offloading your footage onto a laptop, and then offloading that onto an external drive. That way you can delete the footage off of your phone, free up some space, but you still have a copy and a second copy. You still have 2 copies on the laptop and the external drive in case something happens to one. But you've got to be very disciplined to do that, so just take note of that. And finally, not much of a con, but just something that I always think about when you're out there actually using your phone for filming, and then you're using it for actually being a phone, texting, calling, and then using it for the train tickets, like whether it be the New York City subway or the Long Island Railroad, or you're using it for Google Maps, or using it to check your emails. You're using your phone for so much. It's just one more thing that, you know, if you happen to drop it in the train tracks, you drop it down the drain, that's it. It's your entire communication device, probably the most important electronic in your life, now you actually have sacrificed it just because you want to catch a clip of yourself for 30 seconds. You can work around this just by being super careful, paying attention to where you are, having basic street smart, but definitely be careful if you're on a train platform and you're holding your phone out in front of you. Definitely make sure you're aware of your surroundings. No one's going to run up to you and grab your phone. And something that I do not like to do at all is set up my phone on a tripod or on a ledge and get those walking by shots. Those shots are awesome and I wish I could get them more often. I just don't want to risk with leaving my phone there and walking away and turning around and all of a sudden someone swiped it. Now if I am going to get those shots, I'm going to take something like this, a nice cheap action camera, and I have this magnetic mount which is also a clip, so you can clip it to a tree like that, and now you have a $200, $300 camera that's in the distance filming you versus something that is super important, you don't want to lose, it's going to be a world of hurt, and it's also going to be $1,000 at least to replace, if not more money if you get the higher storage model like me. So overall, it is very satisfying to just use your phone for filming vlogs of yourself, getting some nice B-roll and editing it out into a short cinematic movie, cinematic vlog. It's definitely something I'm going to be doing in the future. However, I am going to be taking at least a DJI Pocket 3 or a smaller camera with a smaller lens, just so that I'm not 100% relying on the phone all the time. And it's super rewarding if you do use your phone and you actually can get some great footage and turn it into a great video. Because after all, when it comes to photo and video, it's not all the camera. A lot of times it's the photographer or videographer that makes a much bigger difference. Thanks for watching.